Okay, welcome to our Special Education Technology Center webinar series. Today we're talking about emergent literacy, looking at the tech, task, text, and environment. I'm Kinsella. I'm a speech language pathologist with the Special Ed Tech Center, and Brenda Monte will be joining us. She's also an SLP, and we're excited to have you all here. So thanks for joining. Feel free at any time to unmute or talk to us in the chat if you have questions or comments. We would love to hear from you. All right. So Brenda and I created this webinar partly because we just love learning about emergent literacy, conventional literacy, and our students, right? So we're here for the students, thinking about our focus of those kids who have complex communication needs, maybe complex bodies, but who we know have a lot to learn and a lot to say, and who can read, who can be readers. That's what we believe, right? Just like all of you, we're here in that same vein. We want to see our kids succeed, and we know they can. So our other motivation was Jane Farrell's webinar series, modules. I don't know if you guys have done these yet, but she has, now I think she has 3 different modules that she's offering, but we did the one on comprehensive literacy together and just loved it. There's so much to learn. And so during that webinar, or module, sorry, when she was beginning with the emergent literacy section, she talked about emergent literacy behaviors, and that gave us the idea for this webinar, and just kind of how to put everything together for us. And we thought that was a neat way to present it. So a lot of what we're talking about has come from that. Let me just pause for a minute while I promote Brenda here to host. Just 1 second, sorry. Thanks for hanging with me. All right, so shout out real quick in the chat if you have visited Jane Farrell's website, you know of her, or if you've done her modules, let us know in the chat. That way, just kind of like to hear from people where you're at with those. It's a really nice resource. And then, of course, the Comprehensive Literacy for All book from Copenhagen and Erickson was our inspiration. We did a book study on that. I know a lot of you have learned about that book and done a lot of your own research. And if you haven't seen this book, or if you've just heard about it and you're thinking about diving in, I recommend that you definitely do. There's a lot of great information and how to get started in a real practical way with our students. Let's see what our chat says. Googling Jane Farrell now. Yeah, looking her up. Great. Okay, yeah, they're really good, and they're engaging. So I'd say go for it. Okay. So today is all about emergent literacy. There's comprehensive literacy, and that is our goal, right? To be implementing all areas of literacy throughout the day. Emergent literacy, as you can see here from this is right from Jane Farrell's website, comprises these elements: the shared reading, writing with adults, from adults, writing by yourself, working with letters and sounds, independent reading. And in the Comprehensive Literacy for All book from Erickson and Copenhagen, they talk about that emergent literacy is not dependent on your age. You can be an emergent you can be an emergent reader or writer at any age. It's your experience. So we start as babies being emergent readers and writers. But that can, depending on your experiences with literacy, that could be at any time. So just keeping in mind that if we have older, maybe young adults who are emergent readers and writers, then we're thinking about age respectful content for them, but this may be where they're at. So I have a link I'll share with you in a minute to, actually, let me see if I can pull that.
I have audio and I have links, and host is not allowing video, but I'm on.
Okay.
Which is fine. I don't need people to see my face, so I can share links.
Well, we wish we could. If you can share that link, that'd be great. I'm gonna exit
for the emergent one.
Yes.
Actually, for both. There's actually two on this one. So.
Okay. So one of the links is to this website, Literacy for All Instruction. And I think I got this from Barb, who's joining us now, who is my mentor. And this is a great website to look at areas of literacy if you kind of want an overview. But this section over here does the student. This is also from the book, Erickson and Copenhagen book. So kind of trying to figure out, where is your student? Does the student know most of the letters most of the time? Do they engage actively during shared reading? Are they commenting, pointing? Do they have a means of communication and interaction? Do they have a communication system or another way? Are they using something different, speech or something? Do they understand that writing involves letters and words? So if you've answered yes to those things, then you're working on conventional literacy. If you've answered no, that's where we're at with emergent literacy. Okay, so I just like this little guide. There's a lot more to it that you can find, but it's kind of a nice starting place if you're not sure. And then Brenda, I think the other link we put, I don't remember, but you'll put it in the chat and we'll see.
Yeah, it's a YouTube. It's in the chat. It should. Do you not see it?
Let me see.
I can do it again.
What I was going to share. Sorry. Okay. So another way you may want to learn more about emergent literacy is through our recorded book study.
Grammarly Business is an AI-powered writing assistant, enabling teams around the world to reach their goals faster. Business saves time by allowing them to insert custom snippets, which lets them respond to more customers in less time. Grammarly Business also ensures your tone always aligns with your company's brand.
No, it's yours.
So every employee can make the right impression every time.
Okay, there we go. It was on Sue's. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Let's go back here. So that is our book study that we had recorded. That specific link is when we're talking about emergent literacy. So let's get here to view. Okay, moving on. All right, this is a screenshot from Jane Farrell's module. She was talking about the two aims of emergent literacy, which we just loved this. So promoting positive regard for literacy. So this is what she thinks are the important areas, and their understanding of and functional use and intentional use of literacy, and then to increase their skills in these discrete areas that are linked to later reading success. Okay, but number one you see is that positive regard for literacy.
I missed the very beginning. Sari, did you talk about her?
Yes. Her modules.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yes, and folks are excited to try them out.
I know, and I really think that it would be such a cool program to do with paraeducators. I don't know if you mentioned that in the beginning, and I'm sorry. That any possible technical problem that could have happened this morning for me. But I will say that I was thinking about how hard it is to get paraeducator time in on some of this stuff, and that the modules could be broken up in lots of different ways and be done during the paraeducator day, in some way. So I thought that was something to plug. But anyways.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. That's true. So what I was mentioning before about how we became inspired was really this one line that we saw in her module, that she was talking about the research around emergent literacy and how those behaviors, those literacy behaviors, are fleeting and variable, and how they really depend on the technology, the task that you're doing, the text, what you're reading, what you're looking at, and the environment, and that they change, they're variable. So we kind of thought about this and thought, yeah, everything that we're doing is really one of these four things in a different way. So what does this look like? So that the key here is that variability. And that variability lends itself to engagement, right? Which is really important. So we thought we'd look at these four areas, and then we're going to put this into action with 2 books and talk about how we might vary these 4 things and what would that look like. And we'll need your help with that a bit for some ideas. So first, we're just going to go through these 4 areas. And this is what we thought about when we thought about these 4 areas. Let us know what you think about it, if you have things to add. So looking at the technology, we thought first, you got to take inventory, right? What are you working with? What do you have? Maybe you have a few things in your classroom. Maybe this year you started off with 4 kids with 4 different communication systems. Maybe nobody has a communication system and you're looking at that. What's available in your district? And then outside your district, some ESDs have lending libraries. There's some I just learned about that have an assistive technology lending library. The Special Ed Technology Center has a lending library. We're just starting to begin our loan process again. So thinking about your resources, and it may be that you have some old tech sitting in a closet somewhere, and can you use that? Or you ask somebody, have you seen one of these step-by-steps? And they're like, oh yeah, I had no idea what that was, but it's sitting over here, XYZ. And in a lot of these examples that we're going to talk about with the books, you can do a lot with low tech, right? You can do a lot with a communication board. Project Core has a lot of templates for printing for free. If you have a step-by-step or a single message button like these talking buttons, you can go pretty far with these. Okay.
So we've talked about the tech, single message buttons. Sometimes I think, oh, what's the point of that? Because it's not novel. It's not their idea. They're just hitting a button. And I think we've seen abuse of this, where like, oh, what day is it? And all the kid has to do is smack the switch and it's pre-programmed with Tuesday. And then we're saying that we're working on days of the week or something. Like, I think we've seen arbitrary use of single message buttons, but single message buttons could be yes or no. They could be timing things. They could be things where they have a reoccurring phrase in a book, and so they do a shared reading activity. And since the book says, but he was still hungry, every page on Hungry Caterpillar, it's appropriate that the switch would be pre-programmed because the book is pre-written, right? But now it's about timing, and now it's about them participating in a reading activity. So I just want to point out, because I think sometimes we think of those single message buttons and we think of less functional uses, maybe because that's what we've seen in the classroom. But when literacy with single message buttons has to do with in many cases embedding the tech for a shared reading opportunity.
Thanks, Brenda. So something Brenda put in the chat is a link to this handout. We often have people borrow things from the lending library or on a wait list, somewhere from us or somewhere else, and say, you know what is like the most bang for my buck if we've got this small budget, we just need to get some things. So we put this together to show a few things that we think are really important, that you could maybe purchase to have your own switch access kit. or to help with a literacy kit you might be making. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And we will be, we do have switch kits in the lending library, which I'll show you down here. Looks like this. And then be on the lookout for a literacy kit, a low-tech literacy kit that will be available soon. So
yeah, I think we're shooting for October, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting. We can go into more detail on that when it's ready. Okay, so moving on. So, with all these things, we're still thinking about that variability as our key there. Okay, and then for task, as we're going through these literacy activities, thinking about, are we including all of these things maybe throughout the day, but at least throughout the week? Maybe you're an SLP and you're hopping into a session to the class to do shared reading, or you're supporting writing group as an SLP or an OT. But thinking about all these areas. So the best times I've seen this happen is when your team is planning goals together. Maybe you're able to find time to plan with your SLP, your teacher, your OT on your IEP goals, because then you can say, they're going to be working on this independent writing piece. Where can I fit in? If anyone wants to share about how you fit in some of these skills to your classroom or with your students, feel free to hop on and let us know. And Barb, I see your comment about the literacy kit. We will, thank you. And if you want to share about how you did your writing groups, that would be a great time to do that if you're able to.
Is she muted?
I think she can't unmute, but if she can.
I can.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that sounds great. You mean later, right?
No, this would be a great time.
Now. Oh, you mean the writing groups in April's class?
That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm a retired SLP, but when I was actively working, I went into the classroom for weekly writing activities where we did modeled writing and then allowed the kids to do some immediate writing of their own right after that. And we did a variety of different kinds of topics. We modeled on things that were happening currently in the classroom, like when the lights went out one day. We wrote about holidays coming up. We modeled about holidays coming up. We modeled kind of how we were feeling about certain things that were happening. So we tried to model on topics that the kids could relate to, and then would have their own things to talk about. And then we just used the resources that they were already using in order to tell us what they had to say. And a lot of our kids used the alternate pencils, and we used some clicker painting activities for some alternate drawing that went along, illustrating that went along with our writing. So that's just kind of a brief summary of what we did.
Yeah, thanks, Barb. And that really worked well. And you did a lot of planning with your teacher on goals, so you knew where you guys were headed. And,
yeah. We did.
I'm going to pop back into the chat. I'm seeing a few things that I missed earlier, and I apologize. How many sessions or videos is the book study? So there were 12 chapters of that Comprehensive Literacy for All book study, and there were a few where we paired up chapters. So I think there might have been 10 or 9.
I think it was 10, yeah.
Okay, sessions. And then a link to the presentation we'll send out after the class today. Thanks. Okay. So Brenda, thinking about task here, can you want to share how you work in those tasks?
Yeah, so I came up with these 4 areas because we were going through comprehensive literacy for all, and we were going online. And I was like, yikes, to figuring out, I wanted to implement the literacy stuff I was learning, and online was going to be hard. So I made up this menu, and kids got to pick, after we read a story or a portion of a newspaper article or a poem or whatever the literacy was, they could choose comprehension, first letter, phonemic awareness, or vocabulary. And so do we go into this further on other slides, or is this the
not too much?
Okay, so just a short thing is, and these videos, there's a series of videos through Tuesday's tips that are on this exact thing. But comprehension is basically like where we talk about who's in the story, what, who, what, when, where, why, how. So some kids will automatically always pick that, and then they have the opportunity to either ask the question or answer the question, but we're kind of doing a deeper dive. First letter, they get to pick a letter, and then we're going to sometimes we're going to find 5 words that start with that letter. I'll have included in my kit was a whiteboard that they could write, and as well as a pocket chart that they could put note cards so they could have all the words written up for the first letter. And if they pick phonemic awareness, that was kind of a tap it out, and we sent drumsticks to everyone's house and they would tap it out. And so everyone had a different movement. Some kids have very small movements, some kids had bigger movements, but basically if they had a word like vocabulary, they would click and they'd go bow, and then I would wait, and then they'd hit again, cat, view, there. Oh my goodness, there's 5. We found a 5er. And I'm trying to do more, some that are like 3 and 5. But part of that is because maybe we've looked at first letter, maybe we've looked at word prediction, maybe we're looking for longer words. We're just getting all that awareness of those emergent literacy of like long words and short words and all of that. So that was what phonemic awareness. I have one girl that always picks phonemic awareness first because she gets to bang on her dad's drums. And then once after we've done a few words, then she was ready to pick something else. And then vocabulary is like, let's find words that in your book, that in your language system, AAC, that were in the story. And of course, as I'm reading the first time around, I'm modeling where some of that is, and then it's their opportunity to tell me something else. Today I read a book about Stephanie's ponytail, and everybody was copycatting. And when we were out to vocabulary for my little girl, she's 3, I said, what words do you remember? And she went into animals and said cat. Of course, there wasn't a cat in the story, but I'm like, you know what? I thought you were trying to say copycat, and copycat I don't think is in your device. But that was a really creative way of telling me that. So anyways, I do this because then it gives the child control on the task. And it embeds variability within the task because every kid picks something different. And so you can do this in one-on-one. You can also do this in group. You're taking the task away that's already been selected. And so you're varying the task as you reread or do a deeper dive on the reading number 2, which is recommended for the emergent literacy is multiple readings.
Thanks, Brenda. And at our fall conference, September 30th, we will be going over this a lot more in our Book Madness 16 Sweet Strategies session. And so I'll put the information for that at the end. But yeah, there's a lot of fun ideas here for keeping that variability and giving students choice. Okay, environment. So looking at your environment, whether it's your classroom, your therapy room, or you're helping to support a classroom, or you're online, maybe virtual. So are your students able to access books, and is it engaging? So students still need a choice, right? They still need a choice in how they can access different things. Maybe they want to hold a book and they want to look online. Maybe they need to use switches to turn pages in a book, and they can do that with the iPad, or they're going to use Tar Heel Reader. There are books. So so setting up your environment is important. And I love that this that I found from, I've got to open it up to remember, and Brenda just put it in the chat. Okay, this is from University of North Carolina, I believe. Let me just double check at the bottom. Project Core, yeah. Okay, this is a classroom characteristics form. This is from Project Core, which is about core vocabulary and giving it access to students for communication. But so it's not specifically about literacy, but I love this idea of how you can have this kind of checklist for your classroom. And a lot of these things would also overlap with literacy, right? The communication and literacy go hand in hand. But looking through some of these ideas and then looking for yourself, maybe it's for yourself and you're saying, yeah, where am I at with this? And what are some things that I want to work on? Or together with your paraeducators and your team, you're doing this. But this is just kind of a neat resource. Okay. And then I believe this is our last one, the text. So we want students to have choice, right? That's a really important piece. And that's what they talk about a lot in emergent literacy research. So having choice and it helps with engagement and is really important. But we also kind of need to be prepared, right? So like Brenda mentioned, having multiple readings of the same book is really important. I think she's put a link in the chat to, thank you. I'll open that up for us. Another resource from Project Core, and this is for to help you with multiple readings of a book. So your literacy planning. So here you've got your book title. This would be during shared reading activity. Your first read, your second read, your third read, and maybe you want to talk about some comments you're going to make. You could also use this. This is specifically from Project Core and looking at shared reading, but you could change this, right, to whatever that task is. So during our first reading, this is what my goal is going to be. And here's a page where we're going to talk about this. But I kind of like the idea of the option of having some structure when you're doing this. The other nice thing is if you have this and you have it posted somewhere, then if you're the teacher, you have it posted in your class, SLP can come in and say, okay, we're on our third reading. I can see this is week or day, whatever. They're on their third reading of this. This is some of the goals that they're working on. I can come in and support that. Okay. And then giving students options again, choosing a partner. How are they going to work on this? How do they want to read? Things like that. Which area, like Brenda talked about. What should we do? Should we do syllables? We're going to do comprehension. Okay, so here's where we thought we'd put this into action a little bit. So Brenda is going to explain this book, or maybe read a couple of pages. But for this book, we're going to read it, give a couple examples of a first reading, a second reading, and then what you might vary and what that could look like. And then we'll ask for your advice on another book.
Yeah, so that's why I was hoping I could have my video, not because I needed to be on here today, but because I have this book and it's not in iBooks. It's not on the iPad yet or anything like that. But little penguin books are fun, and they're fun because they have reoccurring themes, which is something that I look at for emergent literacy, because it does help kids with complicated bodies who need switch access to participate in that shared reading to begin with. So this book, I'll just read a page or two, and then you guys will get the idea, because it's done a good job as an emergent reader to repeat. So it says, oh, hello, it's so nice to meet you. Franklin said you would be here soon. So right off the bat, I have their attention because I'm hiccuping. And so we've already taken out any boredom, it seems like, if you can do a good hiccup. Okay. I wonder if you might be able to help, if you might be able to help. You may have noticed that I've got the terrible case of the hiccups. I want to digress already, because when I'm reading, I say, has anybody had the hiccups? Maybe we can do yes, no's about that. Maybe we can talk about our feelings about the hiccups. Are they silly? Are they annoying? And sometimes when I say, are they silly? Are they annoying? I might hold up an S and an A. I'm not necessarily going to feelings on their communication device and doing 2-step scanning down 60 ideas of how we feel. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, but I'm pulling the literacy piece to it. It's driving me cuckoo. It all started last week on chili night. Oh, something must have been something he ate. I'm not sure how many penguins you know, but let me give you some advice. Oh my goodness, look at these big words on here. Never give chili to a penguin. It gives us the hiccups. All right. So as they go through, there's all these strategies on how to cure them. Stand on your head, backward from a cup, upside down, backward from a cup. So here's what I need. So I need you to scare me. Okay, sorry, the glare is bad. So I need you to scare me is the goal. But I don't like being scared. So I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to scare me. So am I giving ideas right now? Okay, sorry. All right. Okay. So on a single message button, I might have a button that says boo. I could also on a step-by-step have the 1, 2, 3, because somebody could be helping me read it whenever they count down, and somebody else could be doing the boo. And anybody else could also just yell out whatever they want to, because sometimes we say boo and sometimes we say ah. And a lot of our kids can say ah. And then the page, can we read that word? And then if no one can, you have the person hit the button that's already scheduled and it says boo. Think good reading. I see that too. BOO says boo, boo. So it's really nice that it has just like an isolated word and all that. And here we go again. And now they want it to be louder, which is something we could think about. He's afraid he's going to have him forever. And it just gets louder and louder. I mean, that's just the whole thing. And then Franklin is the whale who actually scares him. And then at the end, he celebrates by having some more chili. So I gave you a few ideas about this. Let's say you chose to do a single message button with boo. What else could you do? You remember you could vary the tech. You could do a different technology. You could have a different task involved. We're not changing the text just yet, and we're probably not changing the environment unless you're thinking of something that's really isolated. What's different tech or a different task you think that could be done with this book? What we want is to remind you that because these books should be child-directed, you might not actually have the privilege of choosing this book. So some child chooses a book, and you've got to be like, all right, the text is non-negotiable if I've said it's your turn to pick. So I can't vary the text because I'm making it child-directed. The environment may or may not be. So you and I are going to go by ourselves, or this is a whole group thing. But once that's set, that's set. But definitely the tech and the task can be varied for multiple readings. So I just throw in the chat. What else do you think you could do? By the way, I have lots of ideas, but thinking back to how you've seen other books at this emergent literacy level been on a deeper dive, what are some ideas you guys might have about what tech could be used or what task could be done? So you could emphasize a core word in the book on either a high-tech device or a low-tech core board. Perfect. So
on vocabulary.
Yeah, yep. That's vocabulary. Finding all the 2-syllable words. Is every hiccup a 2-syllable word? I like that idea.
All right, good ideas. Keep coming. So we'll show you an idea that we had by varying the tech. And so you're also going to say, oh, okay, that wasn't very hard. That wasn't a big deal to do. So Brenda, explain how you varied the tech here.
Right. So we did this a couple of different ways, but one is to, again, one, and I kind of spoiled on the first one, is to have a 1, 2, 3 countdown on the step-by-step. The other would be to have the step-by-step have the recorded boo getting louder and louder. Because that was part of this too, was that we got to go louder, we got to go louder. So then they hit it again, and that one's louder, that one's louder. So when you're recording, you're saying boo, 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 and you're getting louder as you're recording. And then when they do it, they get their even though their motion is the same, their participation is matching the shared reading as if they're getting louder and louder. Another thing I do on this, and I don't remember, is there one more on this or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's go for it.
All right. So another thing on this is looking at the AAC systems, the alternative pencils, and working with letters. So one idea I do is I say, let's pick a letter. And instead of saying B-O-O, boo, maybe a different word, which means we just change one letter, could have a different effect. So they pick T and you say two. And they pick G and you say go. And then you're just, it's massive auditory bombardment of phonemic awareness of that first letter of the sound. And so they could use alternative pencils, they could use low-tech eye gaze board to just pick a letter, even from a field of 4. And if you want to get silly, you can add P and everybody yells poo, and it just keeps the engagement going. So that is another idea with how could we spell this differently and use different letters, and would that be scary? Or what if we said zoo? I bet you a penguin out free in the wild, when someone yells zoo, that probably scares them. And so there's different ways of doing it, but that changing one letter in a target word can make the whole book a little bit different too.
Mm-hmm. There was a fun idea about programming different single message devices with ideas about how to get rid of the hiccups.
Oh yeah.
What would you do?
Yes.
That's a fun idea.
So by the way, the way that does work, do you guys know this? If you plug your nose and your ears and swallow, it's gone. But anyways, little tidbit.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't have to stand on your head.
No, but my son's 5th grade teacher taught him that, and we've all used that ever since. But anyways, any other ideas on how to vary this? I mean, if you did comprehension, you would say who's in the story, and they would have to go to animals and people and say penguin, and you might say where are they, and that would be a whole nother ball game, right? Like where do penguins live, and should we go on Google to find that out, and when do you think it is the pictures show dark? You're right. What do you think the weather's like there? There's lots of ways to get into the vocabulary pieces of any book, and so that's where the book might be young in age, but you could up the age appropriateness by doing a deep dive into let's learn about penguins and bringing that more into a nonfiction area.
And we're learning about the science about how to stop those hiccups.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Any last ideas on this book? Okay. So here's a new book. So reading one, this one's called Elmo Says a Chew. Go ahead, Brenda.
Yep. I have it right here. All right. Elmo Says a Chew. So this is obviously Elmo, so it's younger. Some of our older kids still like Elmo, but if we want to be age respectful, we might not be doing this in a high school classroom. But Elmo has a present. What is it? No one knows. He's taking it to Oscar, and it tickles Elmo's nose. Chew! Elmo sneezes. Down blows all the clothes. He walked by a clothesline. Bert is stacking cans. He stacks them all neat and tall. Chew! Elmo sneezes, and all the soup cans fall. Simple enough, by the way, to have a reader that's moving to conventional do the reading. Elmo sees a person in a barber's chair. Chew! And Elmo sneezes, and down falls all the hair. Look what we built, the happy monsters call. Chew! And down falls the wall. Not a very strong wall, but we won't get into the science behind that. Here comes a parade. The circus is in town. Chew! Elmo sneezes, and the clowns all tumble down. Elmo visits Oscar to give Grouch the gift. A stinkweed plant, says Oscar. The best I've ever sniffed. Oscar finds his hanky, and then what does he do? Oscar grins a grouchy grin, and then he says, achoo! That's the end of that one. So, again, we could have a button that says achoo, right? That's a single button. Or, by the way, I have achoo recorded in other people's high-tech devices because they want to say achoo. And then that would result in a shared reading experience. So that's what this slide is about. I think the next one is you guys talking more about what you think. Actually, we just leave it here. What would you do? What could you do to vary the tech or the task on this book?
And Barb's noted that Mercer Mayer has a wordless picture book that she's pretty sure is also called Achoo, that involves some more older, some concepts for older students. So that's good to check out.
Right.
That's another thing. If you have, you can kind of see how these two books are sort of related. If you can think of an extension for older students or different type of book, let us know. We're all here to learn from each other. Thanks. So what could you do? What would you vary? I keep thinking. I think we have an idea, and then we'll ask again what folks might do. So here's another reading 2. So we've kept that text the same. We've got variability in all 3 areas. Maybe you've moved to a small group after doing it with the whole group. And using
so again, we could say, what if we change the CH? Because the rest of them are vowels, guys. So if we change the CH, if we said a boo, a coo, a two, right? We could change the letters, and it brings awareness to that, what that sound in that word does to the whole scene, right? But think about it. If we were to answer comprehensions questions too, right? He goes to a lot of places. So on devices or on low-tech boards, on places, where's all the places that Elmo went today on the way to Oscar's house, right?
In the chat, I think an idea is having a single message button with a comment, give him a tissue.
Right.
That made me think of maybe if you're varying your tasks to writing, maybe you're doing predictable chart writing and you're saying, give him and then everybody can choose something, so-and-so says tissue, give him I don't know what else they would give him, or, that kind of idea. Ideas, suggestions you might have for Elmo or for his friends.
Right, and another writing could be too, where does he go next? Elmo walks into, if he sneezed, what would knock down in that place? What would knock down at Disneyland? What would knock down at school? What would knock down at the library? What would knock down at church, or all the different places kids go to?
And then you could have your switch activated fan trying to knock down different things in a little experiment.
That's a change in tech too.
Give him a Benadryl. Yeah, there you go.
That could be another choice.
Maybe don't give him don't give him a flower.
Maybe one says, I don't have COVID. Because that's what everybody says when they sneeze now.
That's true. So there's another idea. Could two kids use single message devices, one with a chew and one with oh no? Yeah, for sure. And that'd be fun. And dueling, right? Okay, so we talked about maybe varying, well, if you vary the text, you're not going to have this book, but varying the text.
You could vary the text with an older level book, like Barb was saying.
Right.
I tried to find that book, Barb, on Amazon, but I don't see it. So I kind of feel like it might not be called a chew, but I could be wrong.
There's another comment, one kid saying, bless you, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Idea. Zoom tight. Okay, so lots of good ideas. What if you're working on, what if your goal is you want to vary the task to writing? We talked a little bit about writing, but what could you do? What would you do to vary, to work on writing for this book? Any ideas? And Brenda, while we're thinking, can you put our Special Ed Center YouTube, just our general link in the chat?
To YouTube? Sure.
Yeah.
It might be called Oops, Barb, but let me just see.
Or if you're doing a change in environment, what if you want to do some home carryover? What could you do to send this home, this idea?
So, sometimes I have families that have step-by-steps and they go back and forth from home to school, and it says, guess what we learned today? We read a book with sneezing, you know, that kind of thing. And then they go back and forth to tell about their day and what happened and what they did. But any kind of home to school connection, even if it's just a piece of paper that goes home, helps them think about how they can use, oh, that reminds me of a different book that has sneezes, or that reminds me of a different, oh, we have Little Penguin books, or we have other Elmo books, and it kind of gets that home to school connection. Something really small, like we read this book and it was about this, and what does your family do to cure hiccups? Just something that makes them realize that what happens at school matters to my home life. I do a lot of home-based treatment, but sometimes I do home-based treatment and I'm only there with a medical nurse and the mom is at work. So sometimes I even send a text or a video or something like that to make sure that the parents then can say, I heard you read a book about. And by the way, how typical is that, even as you get older, talking about books you've read and what you like?
Looks like we did have one more idea. Changing, well, we did change the tech here for an AA system, C system, and the task, the vocabulary. Do you remember what this was going to be, Brenda?
That was more about like, where did they go? What did they see? What knocked down? That was kind of that one.
Okay. Okay. Feel free to put in the chat if you have more ideas. Let us know. Like I said, at our conference, we have a really fun conference lined up, I think. We have Chris Bouguet, who's going to present on making learning accessible, inclusive, and awesome for all. Lots of great ideas, a lot of good coaching information there too. And then we have 2 breakout sessions after this. Our breakout session is listed here because our topic today really fits with that, which is that Sweet 16, the book madness. And so we're going to be looking at a lot of similar ideas to comprehensive literacy, how to make that work, and looking at 16 books and what that could look like for different tools and different strategies. So we hope you can join us. Brenda, can you put the link to our conference in the chat? And then I will send these slides out, and I'll also send a list of book ideas for older students, because I think I was going to add that. This is from Jane Farrell as well, but I didn't get it because we always want to try to include that. So I'll make sure to do that for you.
And then the other thing we had, Sari, and I was trying to figure out how to share this with them, is that academic routines planning thing.